So much for staying with me, everybody. Trump, Wicker, Ezell, all Republicans, all big winners, landslide winners in Tuesday night's primary elections in Mississippi. Here to analyze the results, look ahead to the general election. Magnolia Tribune managing editor Frank Porter. Good to see you, Frank, and thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Dave.
Not a lot of drama. I think that thing was called before the polls even closed on all three of those races. Well, the Trump thing was an outlier. Even though there were names on the ballot, he was really the only candidate.
The only thing really that was in question was actual turnout. And as it has been in the past few primaries of this sort, it's just abysmal. And we've got to find a way to get people back to the polls.
Yeah, tell me about it. I'm with you on that one. So if you look at Wicker, 60%, Ezell, 73%. He actually had two challengers here in the 4th Congressional District who had some kind of name recognition, but 73%?
Yeah, well, you know, Ezell being a freshman congressman, his first time seeking re-election, that's a big win for him. Especially after being in a runoff with former Congressman Stephen Palazzo last time, 2 years ago. But for Wicker, you know, he's won the last two primaries by 80+%. So getting just 60% is a little bit concerning if you're in that northeast quadrant of the state.
Well, there were both, I think one was from Tishomingo County, the other DeSoto County. One was a state lawmaker.
Yeah.
So I guess, you know, that maybe brought that number down to 60%, is that you had two rather known commodities?
Well, you know, I think you had a very strong veteran kind of push with Gannon Burton, and then you had State Representative Danny Eubanks, who was challenging Wicker from the right. He's part of the House Freedom Caucus in Jackson. I do think, though, that there's a very big anti-incumbent sentiment in this country, and I think maybe our state's starting to see some of that.
So when you go then and look at Roger Wicker, what he's going to look at in November, you have Ty Pinkins, the Democrat, didn't have any competition, nobody else on the ballot in the primary. He's known in the Jackson area.
Yeah.
He's known in Democratic Party circles, but does anyone south of McGee even know who he is?
Yeah, you know, he was the substitute candidate for Secretary of State this past cycle in 2023. You know, just because he's a Democrat on the ballot, he got 35, 38%, whatever it was, versus Michael Watson. But no, he's only got like $13,000 in his war chest. Wicker has $5+ million. It won't be a contest.
And over with Ezell coming up in November, I have to actually look this guy's name up. Do you know the name of the guy off the top of your head?
Craig
Rabin.
Craig Rabin. Yeah.
Sorry, I'll try to have him on the air, and maybe you can get to know him. I'm also going to try to get Ty Pinkins too, because again, nobody down here in the coast really knows who he is. So Trump, you know, I mean, you had Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley, DeSantis on there, but you know, they're not candidates, so it was just a rubber stamp for Trump.
Yeah, it's been over basically in the GOP primary for across the country since Iowa. I mean, so I don't think there's going to be any issue going forward with Trump on any state going forward. The question now turns to who he's going to pick for his VP.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. I've got some names on it. You have Kristi Noem, governor of South Dakota, Tim Scott, senator from
South Carolina.
How about Nikki Haley? How about Nikki Haley, Frank? She could reunite the party a little bit.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
A woman?
I think
a woman of color?
I think there was too much bad blood during that primary to pull that trigger. Now, a Tim Scott ticket might be fun to watch. A Vivek Ramaswamy ticket would be fun to watch, especially during that vice presidential debate. That'd be great. But you know, does it really matter? That's the question. Does Trump's VP pick actually matter?
I think it does, because he can only serve 4 years.
True.
And so whoever his running mate is will then have an advantage going into 2028.
Right.
So I think it does matter.
But for this cycle, I'm not sure his running mate actually matters.
Because Trump is just sucking all the oxygen out of the room.
Exactly.
Just the way he likes it. It's all about Trump. Now, the rumors continue, and I actually a couple months ago said Biden may not even make it to November. Up to the convention, they might drop him, but I think it's too late now.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you're a Democrat, you're stuck with a Biden-Harris ticket. I don't see a Gavin Newsom trying to make a play at this point. The only way I think Biden comes off the ticket is if there is some age-related mental issue, or if there's something that comes up with his classified document handling. Other than that, he's your nominee.
But Democrats, when you look at polling for not being popular, they don't want to then put Kamala Harris on top of the ticket. even though historically the vice president would be the natural choice.
And they're actually weak on their bench right now. Newsom in California is probably their most notable candidate possibly to take that spot. But no one outside of the East and West Coast really like him anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Now let's talk. I kind of like Gavin Newsom. Is that who you were talking about, Newsom? He's got a certain savoir-faire.
Certain pizzazz.
Yeah, a certain California something or another. I don't know what it is. So you had a couple of interesting articles in the Magnolia Tribune this week. One thing you wrote about was restoring the ballot initiative, which 99.9% of Mississippians would like the legislature to do. But there were a lot of weird things that happened with that.
Yeah, the House passed their version earlier in the session, and then the Senate this week took up their version of a ballot restoration initiative act. It initially said it needed to be 60% threshold to pass. Then on the floor, one of the Senate Democrats offered an amendment to make it a majority, 50% plus one kind of deal. The chairman who was presenting the bill, Senator Parker, he decided to say we're going to up it to 67% to kind of make a statement. And so at some point, this is going to conference. In the past couple of years, this has not come out of conference, and they're just too far apart with the House and Senate on the actual number of signatures and what that threshold should be.
Yeah, all righty. Well, I hope they get it done. It's well past time that they restore the right of Mississippians to petition government for the right to vote on issues. Frank Corder, managing editor of Magnolia Tribune. Good to see you, Frank, and
You too,
I
Dave.
always like having you on the show.